Consistency isn't about convenience, it's about commitment, especially when everything in you wants to quit. You say you want greatness, you say you want to leave a legacy, but the real question is, are you willing to show up every single day, even when it hurts, even when it's boring, even when nobody is clapping for you? Because that's where your legacy is being written, not in the moments of hype, not when motivation is high, but in the quiet, uncomfortable, unseen hours where discipline is your only option. Anybody can grind for a day. Anybody can go hard for a week. But can you stay locked in when the results don't show up? Can you keep pushing when the progress feels invisible? That's the difference between people who talk about success and people who actually live it. You've got to understand that consistency is a mindset before it's a habit. It's a decision you make daily, no excuses, no shortcuts, no compromises. You wake up and you go to work, not because you feel like it, but because you promised yourself you would. That promise, that's your contract with your future. Every time you break it, you're telling yourself you can't be trusted. But every time you honor it, you build confidence, discipline, and identity, and that's powerful. Because over time, those small, repeated actions start shaping who you are. You're no longer someone who tries, you're someone who does. You're no longer someone who starts and stops. You're someone who finishes. And that identity shift, that's what creates a legacy. See, people think legacy is about one big moment, one breakthrough, one achievement that defines everything. But that's not true. Legacy is built in layers, in repetition, in the daily grind that nobody wants to talk about. It's the early mornings when you don't feel like getting up. It's the late nights when you're tired, but you keep going. It's choosing discipline over distraction, purpose over comfort, growth over excuses again and again and again. That's how you separate yourself. That's how you become unforgettable, because while others are waiting for motivation, you're moving with intention. While others are quitting when it gets tough, you're pushing through the resistance. And let me tell you something. Success respects consistency. It might not reward you immediately, but it always shows up for those who refuse to quit. So don't get discouraged if you're not seeing results right now. Don't let slow progress make you doubt yourself. Every step you take, every effort you give, every time you show up, it's adding up. You're building something bigger than you can see in the moment. You're building discipline. You're building resilience. You're building a version of yourself that refuses to break under pressure. And that's the kind of person who leaves a legacy. So keep going. Stay consistent when it's hard, when it's messy, when it feels like nothing is working. Because one day, all those small, consistent actions will come together, and people will look at your life and call it success. But you'll know the truth. You'll know it was consistency that made you who you are. Consistency is the real grind, the part nobody celebrates, but everybody benefits from. You want a legacy? Then you've got to fall in love with repetition, with doing the same right things over and over again until they become part of your DNA. Because, let me tell you something, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will make you unforgettable. There are people out there more talented than you, more gifted than you, maybe even more connected than you, but they don't have your discipline, they don't have your hunger, and they definitely don't have your willingness to show up every single day and put in the work. That's your edge, that's your power. And if you don't use it, you're wasting your potential. Too many people rely on motivation, and that's why they fail. Motivation comes and goes. It's unreliable, but consistency, that's a choice. That's a standard you set for yourself no matter how you feel. You don't negotiate with your goals, you commit to them. You don't wait for the perfect moment, you create it through action. And every single day you follow through, you're sending a message to yourself. I am who I say I am. That's how confidence is built. Not by talking, not by wishing, but by doing again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. And let's be real, it will be uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, discipline is uncomfortable, staying consistent when there's no immediate reward. That's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the price you pay for greatness. You've got to be willing to embrace it, to lean into it, to understand that it's not there to break you, it's there to build you. Because every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you're strengthening your mindset, you're proving to yourself that you're different, and over time that difference becomes your identity. You're no longer someone who starts strong and fades. You're someone who endures. You're someone who finishes. And that's rare. That's what makes you stand out in a world full of people who quit too soon. Your legacy isn't going to be defined by how fast you started. It's going to be defined by how long you lasted. Can you stay consistent when the excitement fades? Can you stay disciplined when the results slow down? Can you keep showing up when nobody is watching, when nobody is praising you, when it feels like your effort is going unnoticed? Because those are the moments that matter most. That's where character is built. That's where champions are created. Anybody can go hard when the spotlight is on, but real ones, they grind in silence. They work in the shadows. They trust the process even when the process doesn't make sense. And eventually that consistency compounds. It builds momentum. It creates results that people can't ignore. And when people finally see your success, they'll think it happened overnight, but you'll know better. You'll know it was the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the discipline, the days you didn't feel like it but did it anyway. That's your legacy, not luck, not chance, not shortcuts, just pure, relentless consistency. So don't stop now. Don't slow down. Stay locked in, stay focused, and keep showing up, because every day you do, you're writing a story that the world will one day respect. Consistency is what separates a dreamer from a legend. It's the bridge between where you are and the legacy you claim you want to build. Everybody talks about big goals, big visions, big success, but very few people are willing to commit to the daily discipline required to make those things real. You've got to understand this. Your legacy is not built on what you say you'll do. It's built on what you actually do every single day without fail. It's built in the routines you repeat, the habits you reinforce, and the standards you refuse to lower. There will be days when you're tired, days when you're frustrated, days when it feels like nothing is working. But those are the days that matter the most. Those are the days that test your character, your commitment, your hunger, because anybody can show up when it's convenient, but not everybody can show up when it's difficult. That's where greatness lies. That's where you prove to yourself that you're serious about your goals. And let's be clear, consistency is not about perfection. You're going to have bad days. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall short sometimes, but consistency means you don't quit. You don't let one bad moment turn into a bad mindset. You don't let failure define you, you let it refine you. You get back up, you reset, and you keep moving forward. That's the mindset of someone who's building a legacy, because legacy isn't about being flawless. It's about being relentless. It's about refusing to stop, no matter how many times you get knocked down, and over time that persistence begins to shape your reality. The work you put in starts to show. The progress you once couldn't see becomes undeniable. The habits that once felt forced become automatic. And suddenly you're not chasing success anymore. You're living it, but it didn't happen overnight. It happened because you stayed consistent when it was hard, when it was boring, when it felt like nobody cared. That's the part people don't see, but it's the part that matters most. because consistency is not just about results. It's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do, no matter what. When you build that kind of reputation with yourself, everything changes. Your confidence grows, your focus sharpens, your standards rise. You stop settling for average because you've trained yourself to operate at a higher level. And that's powerful because now you're not just chasing a goal. You're becoming a person who attracts success naturally. That's what legacy is all about. It's not just what you achieve, it's who you become in the process. So if you really want to leave something behind that matters, something that people will remember, then you've got to commit to consistency at a level most people aren't willing to reach. You've got to be disciplined when others are distracted, focused when others are lost, and determined when others give up. You've got to keep showing up day after day with the same intensity, the same hunger, the same purpose. Because at the end of the day, your legacy won't be measured by your intentions. It will be measured by your actions. And if those actions are consistent, powerful, and relentless, then your legacy won't just exist. It will inspire. Consistency is the ultimate test of who you really are, because it forces you to confront yourself every single day. It's easy to make promises when you're inspired, when you're motivated, when everything feels possible. But consistency asks a different question. Who are you when the excitement fades? Who are you when it's just you, your goals, and the work that needs to be done? That's where your legacy is decided. Not in the highlights, not in the applause, but in the quiet, repetitive moments where discipline has to take control. You've got to understand that every single day is a vote for the person you want to become, or a vote for the person you're trying to leave behind. And those votes add up. One missed day turns into two turns into a habit, and before you know it, you're drifting away from your purpose. That's why consistency isn't optional, it's everything. It's the difference between progress and stagnation, between growth and regret. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to do the work for you. If you want a legacy, you've got to earn it through daily effort, through sacrifice, through a level of discipline that most people are not willing to reach. You've got to become obsessed with the process, not just the outcome. Because if you only focus on results, you'll quit when they don't show up fast enough. But if you fall in love with the grind, with the early mornings, the late nights, the repetition, the struggle, then you'll keep going no matter what. And that's where the transformation happens. That's where you start to separate yourself from the crowd. Because while others are looking for shortcuts, you're building something real. While others are making excuses, you're making progress. And that progress might be slow, it might be invisible, but it's happening. Every disciplined action, every moment you choose focus over distraction, every time you push through when it would be easier to quit, you're building momentum. You're creating a version of yourself that doesn't break under pressure, that doesn't fold when things get tough. And that version of you, that's the one who leaves a legacy. Because legacy is not about luck, and it's not about talent alone. It's about showing up so consistently that success has no choice but to follow you. It's about creating standards so high that quitting is no longer an option. And let's be real, it's not going to be easy. There will be days when you doubt yourself, days when you feel stuck, days when it seems like nothing is working. But those are the days you have to lean in even harder. Those are the days that define you. Because if you can stay consistent in those moments, if you can keep pushing forward when everything in you wants to stop, then there's nothing that can hold you back. You become unstoppable. You become disciplined. You become the kind of person who doesn't just talk about greatness. You lives it. And when people look at your life, when they see what you've built, they won't just see success. They'll see the consistency behind it. They'll see the effort, the discipline, the resilience. That's your legacy. Not a moment, not an achievement, but a pattern of behavior repeated so many times that it becomes who you are.